morning, everyone, and thank you for waking up with me on Up with India. Today, I'll be joined by Michelle Washington, the founder of Women of More LLC, that emerged in 2016 as a digital magazine that highlights women who are industry leaders, game changers, and difference makers. Her magazine has been deemed by Harper's Bazaar as one of the rising feminist magazines to read. The Women of More magazine has been seen in 168 countries and has evolved into a marketing and media company that includes events, workshops, video production, and so much more. Emphasis on the more. I'm looking forward to having Michelle on the show to share about the story behind Women of More that has been inspiring women for a decade. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being on the show. Really happy to have you here.
Hey, India, I am so happy to be with you this morning. You are such a rock star. I can listen to your voice as long as I can. You are doing amazing things, and congratulations with your success.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I could say the same about you. You have that radio voice. It's like, I just want to turn it on and keep it on. Thank you so much. And yes, speaking of success, you have been such a successful person in the industry of media relations, media production. And there's so much more here to talk about when it comes to your story. But let's start out with just getting our viewers warmed up with who you are. Give us a background to who you are, where you're from, and bring us into your story.
Absolutely. So, who I am a promise keeper. I am a brave and courageous woman. I am a woman that wants to exceed my low level ideas in abundance. I have been given the capacity to be the mother of two beautiful young women and a grandmother of a boy and a girl. So I'm excited about that. I'm from Philly, originally born and raised in Philly, where the playgrounds I spent most of my days.
Yes.
So from Philly, I moved in Delaware when I was a junior in high school. I went to Claymont and going there, leaving the city and coming to a suburbs was just night and day. It changed my life in so many ways just to see the diversity and how to relate to different people, not knowing that that was part of my today, of understanding the value of, I guess, listening to different women and their different stories. Women of More came along 6 years ago. Used to work in corporate, and I always knew that there was more to me. I was married for 13 years, and sometimes when you get divorced, you get two labels as a woman. You become a divorced woman and a single mom. And I allowed those two titles to discourage me in regards to my path and my journey. And with that, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was just meditating and just getting into the presence of God. And I heard God say, He said, there's more to you. There's more behind your story. There's more than your labels and titles. He said, and I promise you, this is what I heard. He said, you are a woman of more. And it was like light bulbs that went off in my head. And I said, I am more than those things. So from 6 years to where we are now, throughout all my journey in life, I'm just excited to be the ambassador and the advocate for Women of More.
Wow, wow, wow. Such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for introducing us into your world and bringing us in just a little bit. There's so much that you did touch on there, from being a single mom to raising children to being an entrepreneur to going through a divorce. There's a lot that we're going to get into later on in the story that I'm sure is going to bring up some of those moments that you're going to be able to
Mhm.
comb through and show us how you define Women of More in your life all around the board. But I am really interested to know, how did you even get into the industry of media with everything that happened in your life and, the different transitions that you went through? Why did you decide that media was going to be the outlet to utilize your gift?
I believe in this moment, no one ever asked me that question, so that's a great question. I believe media chose me. I've always had the creative ability growing up. I always wanted to try things and do different things. But when I got the notion of, stepping out to do this Women of More thing, in myself, I said, I need to make sure that this message extends my small market. And in that, I love magazines, but I carried around a little pamphlet from Elle magazine for a year. 1 year, I carried it around and I kept looking at it, saying one day Women of More would have a magazine because I knew that was a way to expand the message. And after that year, in that year, I did my research, do all the things that I needed to do to see how could I do this. And after that year is when I launched Women of More. So I didn't go to college for media, communication, journal. I didn't even do all of that. I just knew that this message had to go beyond me. But again, it's tied into that creative ability that I had.
So when you were a young girl, what did you dream of becoming if it wasn't a journalist in the space that you're in
A speaker. I wanted to impact the world to the point is when I was living in Philly, I used to put teddy bears and doll babies as my audience. I promise you, I did that, and I used my dresser as my podium. And I used to just, man, I was going to change these teddy bears' lives. The doll babies, everybody was going to be changed, inspired, and empowered. I promise you.
now? For
And
sure.
that's where it began. So that even tied into where I am today because my message is for women to understand that there is more to them, not do more, but there is more to you than what you have experienced in life.
Who were some of the people in your life that showed you that there was more to you?
My grandmother, man, whoo! My grandmother on my father's side, she lived with us when we was in Philly. And I didn't know that she was grooming me for today. She taught me about love. She taught me about commitment. She taught me about community, um, and just love. She really changed me there. I'm a preacher's kid, so my father, he's been deceased now for 21 years or more. 21 years. He taught me things. My mother taught me, and some of the people that wasn't like visible in my life was Sheila E. and Patti LaBelle and Tina Turner. Those were some of the women that just inspired me to go beyond me, and I think that sometimes is the hindrance for us as women. We could get such in a place of limitation that we don't explore different things. We always think that things are out of our reach, like it's so far when we already have what we need within us.
What were some of those limits that you saw within the mindset of certain women in your life that you knew that could not be your story, that you had to push through and break boundaries and break ceilings, and not be limited to just what you thought was your experience or your environment, that there was more to you. What were some of those limiting mindsets that you wanted to break through?
That I wasn't valuable, that I wasn't worthy. Going through a divorce sometimes will take away. It will knock your wind out, especially if it has some form of abuse in it. Um, I didn't want to be a bitter woman. I saw that growing up, different women being bitter, and sometimes when you're bitter, you become brittle and hard. And I didn't want that. So everything within me had to go up against that. But in that time frame of that season after divorce, I forgot all of that and I was starting to go through the path that I didn't want to go through. And I'm so glad. One of the things that changed my life too is going through counseling. Counseling saved my life. Just getting the help that I needed to understand who I was again.
Were you able to go through the counseling before you launched Women of More, or was that something that happened simultaneously?
Before, way before, way before. So I've been divorced. I mean, it's probably, I don't even know. I'm just happy that I'm divorced. It's been so many years. Um, but counseling came right after I made a decision to
Mm.
get a divorce.
You know, the majority of your career so far with this magazine has been focused on highlighting the stories of other women and parts of their stories that they may have not shared with the world yet or told in certain ways. Have you always been brave and transparent enough to share parts of yours?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because it came with shame. Because, you know, being raised in the church, sometimes it teaches you how to be um not so much transparent. It teaches you how to shy away from the truth. It's almost like the stories of old, whatever happens in a house, stay in a house. So you didn't have the freedom to share anything, but absolutely not. It came from just understanding that it was okay to share. It was okay because sharing the story was able to release other people from their stories. So I couldn't, just come up with a phrase to say, "Hey, you're a woman of more, there's more to you," and not become that. And that's something that I desperately didn't want to do. Just say it and not live it.
What is one thing about you that most people don't know, not even your
Uh, oh, I mean, that's a great question.
family?
You are really, really good. You're really gonna go far in there. I already see it on you. You are going to go far.
Thank
So
you.
what don't my family know about me?
Yeah. What's that thing that you've been keeping to yourself?
Hmm. I really don't know how to answer that because I try to be very transparent with my daughters, and one of the things that I share with them is even as women of more begin to grow, there were points that I was fearful. I was very, very fearful in a point of not knowing if I could really do this. If you don't deal with those things that has crippled you in your past, they're going to come back up. They're going to just spontaneously show up. And sometimes they have. And I had to be honest with them. But it's really nothing that they don't know
Mm.
about me.
Okay, that's fine. We'll dig a little bit deep and maybe something will come up along the way. So I know that this journey to creating Women of More, it didn't come overnight, but it also wasn't something that you knew was going to happen. But if you could just take us with you on the journey to getting to the first publication, what did that look like?
Well, the first one was with me on a cover, and it was so small. But in the end, that thing drove me crazy. It was about 6 pages, eight pages because of cover. That thing drove me crazy. I would cry because I didn't feel like I was doing it or it would look right. It was just so hard, in the very beginning. But today, it's just like it's just incredible. But the first publication was myself. The second one was her name is Daria Chisholm, and she's an anchor or what she retired. But even with that, for her to say yes to me was crazy. And I want to say this to you, and this came to me maybe last week, I believe. And I was just thanking God for the opportunities that have come my way for women of more. And he reminded me, he said, "Michelle, the only reason why these women have said yes to you is because you said yes to me first." He said, "There's no way that these cover girls or special features will ever say yes to you if
Mm.
you didn't respond to what I told you." So I think that is something that we need to address. It's not that the things that we desire aren't there in front of us. We just got to make sure we do our part first to unlock those things that we desire.
What do you say to women that do not have as strong as a faith as you do, or may not belong to anything that is faith based, but they still want to tap into their voice, their light, what they are supposed to be doing, and what they're called to do here? How do they accomplish that?
I think you said it, partially said it, is in regards to tapping within yourself. And yeah, I felt if I could look back, I have wasted so much time tapping into what was outside of me, trying to get the approval of other people, trying to make sure I'm doing things right for other people. And I will always fail because I was looking for value or affirmation from everybody else. So the number one thing is to make sure you tap into what and who you are. Everything I wanted to be and wanted and will be is already here. I have to unlock those doors. In regards to faith, it's more of a relationship with God for me. You got to make sure that your relationship, not your religious ship, but your relationship with God is setting you apart and fulfilling those things that you may doubt, the shame, the guilt, the fear, all those things that try to self sabotage us or paralyze us. If we build that relationship and believe, you will see the benefits and the manifestations of who you are.
Mm. It's very interesting that you said that your first cover was you on it. And I don't know if you know, but Oprah talked about when she first started O Magazine, no one would call her back. No one wanted to be on this magazine because they had no idea what this was all about. Why would I be on the cover of this? And she had to be on the cover of her magazine. And moving forward, she decided to just kind of keep that tradition. But for you, that one time of having you on the front changed, and now you feature so many other women, we change makers, leaders, business owners, community leaders, and all of these, what so have you. Where do you finding these women from? I know that you said that if it wasn't for you saying yes to yourself, or saying yes to your higher calling, they wouldn't have been willing to be featured on the cover. But how and where are you finding these women in the first place that would even consider being on the front cover of Women of More?
Well, I have a list of women that I admire, and I just shoot from my list first. I'm always looking, I'm always seeking women that I know and women that I don't know, and I go from there. So if I can't get them on a cover, maybe that particular woman is a special feature inside the magazine. And to be honest with you, me going on the cover of the magazine first was so hard. It was hard, hard, hard because I'm thinking like, why would somebody want to see me on the cover? But I did it, because I still was struggling with seeing my value. I knew what I was called to do. I knew I had to respond. But there are moments where you're on your journey, but then you have that moment of, should I? Am I enough? If you don't deal with your past will always try to be your present. So, what I heard back then of being a single mom, a divorcee, or I'll never be good enough, and all those different things, in those moments of vulnerability, sometimes they came up and I had to deal with it. So
How do you know when it's time to take the leap? How do you Is it a feeling you feel? Is it something you hear? Is it something you see? When do you know to take the leap of faith to go forth with something as big and as scary as a dream like yours could be?
I think it's all the above. You said it. It's a feeling, it's a knowing, it's a sense of urgency. And it might be that you get frustrated in your current season because that frustration comes sometimes it's because you're delaying yourself from moving forward into something else. When I got the idea for Women of More, I was still working for corporate. I was still working in corporate trying to figure it out, being frustrated because sometimes when you're creative and you're in that environment, it becomes frustrating too. But I knew that there was absolutely more to me. So it's all the above. Sometimes you're going to get a confirmation from other people. You're going to be affirmed. You're going to sense that this is the moment to move. So it's all those things. But in order to experience those things, you have to be in a position to hear it. Sometimes our lives are so chaotic that we don't hear when it's time for us to move, and then we miss it in that season, and then it comes back around, hopefully, to some.
What's the best way to clear your mind?
For me, it's a couple of things. One, meditation, really meditation. Meditation for me, taking a long ride and actually working out. Those are my 3 biggest things, especially in this pandemic. I'll take a long ride to nowhere and just drive and just maybe listen to some music or something motivational.
Mhm. Speaking of music and motivation, coming up next on the cover of Women of More is Jacqueline Carr, a Grammy nominee and GMA Dove award-winning independent recording artist who earned 8 Billboard number ones before the age of 21, and she's getting ready to grace the cover of Women of More. Tell me about how that interaction came together and you decided to feature this musical artist on the cover.
She was on the list. She was absolutely on the list. I call her a lawmaker because when she speaks, she declares and decrees. And what she declares and decrees becomes a law in the atmosphere. And she always inspired me at her age to be, she actually is the youngest cover girl for Women of More. But who she is so dynamic. I said one day, I said, I'm gonna have her on the cover. I just said it. And that's what I said to all the one day she's gonna be on the cover. And her latest album cover is was just fierce. And I said, let me get to work. Let me get to work. And that's how it happened. So I'm really excited about her being on the cover.
What is the message that you hope that she gets across to your readers?
Well, it's going to sound cliche, but this is her new album that God is changing your story. The story that you came out of does not have to continue to be the story of today. Your story, good night. Your story can change the moment you believe that you have changed. And when you realize that you have changed, then the story is changing. I'm not a survivor of domestic violence. That was my story. That was in my past. I am just a person that experienced that in my story. I'm not a divorced woman. I experienced that. My story, man, I'm telling you, this is the key thing for all the women, especially that are watching this around the world. Listen, the moment you look at what you went through as a moment of your life, and that is not who you are, you will no longer allow your story to speak for you. So when I go to the women's prison and the men's prison and talk to them, I'm not allowing my story to speak for me. I'm speaking my story to them. What do I mean? I'm saying that when I talk about what I went through, I'm not smiling because I don't care because I went through something, but I can speak it in a position of victory that that is no longer my story. It was just a moment. Woo! I tell you
You
what.
are getting me emotional over here. Oh my goodness, Michelle, what are you doing?
Man.
This is not what's supposed to be happening right now.
Listen, God is changing your story. Your story has changed, and that's why Jacqueline Carr is the person for this season in my life. The women that are going to read the magazine to people around the world that God is doing something major. Or let me phrase that God has already done something good night. Woo! God has already done something major in your life, but you got to be the one that's going to change the story of what you've been through. So you can already see what God has already predestined. And that's why I have to say that when God told me, He said, Michelle, you had to say yes to me first. I didn't know my yes meant that Jacqueline was going to be in my future. Kathy Hughes was going to be in my future. Sheila E. was going to be in my future. Avery Such, all these women were going to be in my future. I didn't know, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't say yes and do the work first. It wasn't just a yes, but I had to do the work.
Mm.
Man,
Oh my goodness, you are talking to me right now. You are speaking to me. You're speaking to so many women that are going to be, that are watching this right now,
yeah,
taking all of this in because if there's one thing that this year has taught us is that we have the power to change what the narrative is and what it looks like. And the pandemic shook our world. It made some of us forget who we are, and made some
Mhm.
of us feel like we are no one, because it just changed everything about our normalcy, of our lives. But hearing that is such a refreshing message, that I think is going to empower a lot of people. Wow, thank you so much for sharing
Yeah, my pleasure.
that. You know, in in your dialogue, in telling me about your story changing, you talked about a piece of domestic violence. Um, and I don't want you to have to go too far back into that.
Mhm.
But I do want to know how you were able to transform the narrative of that story and what you went through in that piece, when you were in your marriage.
Mhm. Absolutely. The worst thing I had to do is to regain who I was. Unfortunately, when you're in a relationship like that, it really drains your value, your self-worth. You forget who you were because you have allowed yourself to be depleted, diminished, belittled, all those things. And that's what I did. And again, it took counseling, it took me doing the work. And then it took me to remind myself who I was before marriage. Honestly, I had to go back and say, Michelle, what did you want to do? Who did you want to be? Remember, I told you when I was a little girl, I'm empowering women with through my teddy bears and doll babies. But I forgot that in a season of my marriage, to the point I would be, in the back and feeling like, no, and all that other kind of stuff. So counseling, regaining my self-value, and really that moment when God reminded me or told me, he said that you're a woman of more. And when he said that, I began to speak out loud all the things I knew I was. The moment he said it, I began to say, oh, yeah, I remember I am fearfully and wonderfully. Oh, I am an entrepreneur. Oh, I am beautiful. I am smart. I had to begin to confess what I knew I was. Just, whew, I had to confess it because in that moment, God really was changing. He was changing my story. He was doing the work in me. And that's why, man, I know it sounds like this is bland, but it's really not because I'm receiving it as I'm talking to you guys. Is that in that moment, my story was no longer, I'm a divorced woman, I'm a single mom, I'm this, that, and the other. It started to change. God started changing the story. And when you asked me to tell people who I was, I didn't say I'm a mother, I'm a this, I'm a that. I said I am a promise keeper. I am brave. I am courageous. I am strong. But God did give me the capacity to be a mother and a grandmother because even in us being created, He didn't say that I want you to be, or he said, he did in the beginning when we were created, he didn't say you was a mother, you was a wife. He said, I created you as a woman. And oftentimes we jump over being a woman to fulfill roles and titles that could fade away. Good night. Woo! Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. I just hope and pray that in this moment, to all your viewers that's watching, is just to remind you that you are more than any tragedy, any trauma, any defeat, that God has already made you a winner. He already made you the head. He already made you a giver. He already made you more than a conqueror. You have to believe that that's who you are, because once you believe it, you're going to start seeing things just open. Doors are going to open. People are going to start coming to you. And you're going to be like, whoa, what is going on? And I speak that over you, India. All you got to do is keep saying yes. All you got to do is keep moving forward. All you got to do is keep sharpening your gifts and your talents. And I promise you, you're going to see what God really has prepared for you in your future.
I received that. I received that, Michelle. And I thank you so much for the inspiration that you're filling this space with right now. Sometimes you're right that we are vessels and we're to be utilized to help other people. And sometimes your gift is what I believe the higher power uses to get that done. And so I'm blessed to be able to share this platform with you and just inspire so many women out there that are watching. Again, Michelle, you being here right now, you have no idea. I'm
Mm.
getting chills. I'm just, I'm just so happy to have you. Harper's Bazaar deemed your magazine as one of the rising feminist magazines to read. How do you feel about the word feminism?
I didn't know how to receive it. I really didn't know how to receive it at all because I guess my definition of it at that time was, I'm against something else.
Right. Which is how most people view it, right?
Yep. And then I had to create my own definition of it because I'm not against anyone. I'm not against any woman. I'm very diverse. That's why God didn't tell me to make it a black magazine. He didn't tell me to make it a Christian magazine. I'm all those things. He said to do this, and I did it. But feminist, I think it's a word for me of strength, of being an advocate, of being an ambassador, and to speaking up and speaking loud for women around the world, whatever that is. I don't speak on everything in regards to women because I don't know everything in regards to women, but I know that my platform is to get women to understand who they are and to accept that there is more to them.
Some people get turned off when they hear that word, and being as though that's something that you have been your magazine has been defined as. How does that make you feel? Does it make you worry that some people won't read it or understand your perspective because someone else has put a title on you? How do you deal with that?
I don't have any fear about that. I believe those that are strategically wants to know how to be a woman of more will read it. Again, it's my assignment and part of my job to get people to understand that feminism is not a bad thing or is not a word to reject others for me. So that has to be part of our message and how we market, how we campaign, how we lift up our voices in regards to that.
You in 2019, you said this isn't the year of women. We've always been here. What did you mean by that?
Because I believe that term really it limit us to a year. Why would this just be the year of us when we have always been here? I was watching a documentary um, on Hillary Clinton, I believe, or Michelle Obama, one of the two, and in there they went back into their years and they were saying that same thing in the 60s and the 70s, that this is the year of the woman. And I'm thinking, well, that passed, but
Right.
we're bringing it back. So I say that we are always here. It's always our year. It's always our day. We have to accept that and not allow trends to downplay us or make us feel like this is the year of the woman that makes us proud and bold. No, this has always been the year, the day, you know.
Mhm. Do you have a percentage of male readers?
A small percentage of readers, male readers, I would say probably 10% of male readers, but I have a lot of males really supporting the brand. There's a lot of men that are standing with me, and I'm so grateful to that. It's amazing that you asked that question because I was just thinking earlier today that every woman needs men in their life, not just in an intimate relationship, but just having them part of your squad and your community because they bring something different. And I was going to actually make a post about it and just thanking all the men that support me, stand with me, cheer me on behind the scenes because it's necessary.
Well, here's the chance to do it right here, right now, for those that are watching.
So to all the brothers that are watching me right now, you know exactly who you are, and there's several, and I don't want to miss any of the men that have taken on Women of More as your own. You have prayed for me, you have texted me, you have called me, you have even suggested different ideas for me to do. Um, so I am so grateful to you for not wanting anything, but just being that man of more in my life and just supporting me. So thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. Shout out to them. And thank you for all of those that are still watching and paying close attention to this interview. Michelle, pivoting for just a second, most industries are predominantly male, most, right? And so typically you will see industries where there's only one woman in the room oftentimes. What is the most important aspect of being in a room that is predominantly male and being the only woman? What is the most important aspect of that?
Being brave and being courageous and being you. You know, I love it when I'm the only woman in the room, because it gives me the opportunity to bring other women into the room and being strong. You just have to be brave and see the men as men. Sometimes I have to give this some of my failures or opportunities is when I was in those rooms, either with all male or with different cultures. And I would just feel like, I don't even know why I'm here. This is not for me, or I shouldn't be here. But now I take it, as an opportunity to be brave. Miss Kathy Hughes taught me about being authentic, representing. And when she said it, not just representing Black, but representing all the women that have gone before you and the women behind you, it made me square my shoulders a little differently, approaching life differently when it comes to this career or this platform in media.
Mhm. Who would you say, or what would you say is the most important issues women are facing today? And do you have any advice on overcoming or meeting those challenges head on?
I believe confidence. I really believe confidence is one of the things that women are dealing with today. And it goes back to all the things that they have maybe refused or are challenged to let go in their past. But their confidence is one of the things, because if we have confidence, man, we could change the world. One of the things we could change the world. So, if I could give any suggestion in that, is to remind yourself. I mean, everything I'm saying ties into knowing who you are. I can only be the confident woman is because I did the work. I did the work, and I was so persuaded, so determined to not be that bitter, brittle, badgered, or defeated woman. I didn't want to do it. So, in order for me to build up the confidence, I had to check myself. I had to look at other women that were doing what I wanted to do. I had to surround myself with people that are going to speak in my life. And most importantly, I had to believe truly that there was more to me.
Recognizing that some women have a deficit when it comes to confidence, was that the reason why you created the Max Out workshop?
Actually, a friend of mine, she created that. But it was part of that because her mission was similar to mine in regards to getting women to organize their businesses and understanding how to do the roadmap for their lives. But yes, that was part of it.
Talk to me about some of the live events or workshops that you've put together that have helped women in that way, whether it's gain confidence, whether it's gain resources, whether it's gain connections, networking skills. Talk to me about some of those things you've put together.
There are two events. I used to do women working women networking after work. We used to do that here in Wilmington on Fridays, at least once a month, where we would get other women that are in business or trying to get into business, and we would just talk and encourage them, answer any questions they may have, but really to put them in a room with other women that can help them with their confidence and navigating through their system. The other event that I was super duper proud of, her name is Kim Jones, but she's known as Real Talk Kim.
Yeah.
She's from Atlanta. She came to Delaware and did a fabulous job here in Delaware. I think it was 4 years ago, maybe.
Mhm.
But with the pandemic, I'm always, talking to different people, clients. I'm still doing virtual conference with different people. Um, but those are the things now that I'm doing and leading up to 2021, which is just so incredible how we're going to navigate and stay relevant in this platform of media.
And I definitely want to get into that. But you know what I find so special about what you already have with this digital magazine and all of the different digital media uh, products that you have is that you pivoted way before the pandemic. Whereas a lot of businesses had to adapt that model of going digital, you were already digital. So, were there any hindrances? Were there any challenges that you faced when the pandemic happened, or were things pretty much moving business as usual?
Business as usual. You nailed it. I do some printed editions for each magazine. We do buy 100 copies, but I never wavered from the digital platform. And sometimes I thought, well, Michelle, you probably need to do something different, go more printed. But I always knew I had to master this digital because it was easy. It was relevant for people that was on the go, so they could just open their phone and go through it. So I knew that it will benefit us in our mission.
Now you have marketing and you have video production. So does that mean that you get to work with other companies and help tell their stories and produce content for them? And what does that look like?
Absolutely. One of the biggest people I work with right now is, and I'm sure you know DETV, where they brought me on to.
BTV.
Yes, Ivan Thomas, he is the founder of DETV, and it has been an incredible partnership where they're giving me space to create female content
Nice, nice.
over there. So I'm excited about that. And some of my clients, they have either a YouTube show or people that are gearing up. This is one of the things I'm really getting into, and I'm really excited about is creating commercials for different businesses, and that's a win-win situation because as I continue to grow, I'm gonna need commercials for different shows and just for marketing, so I'm excited about that.
What would you say you enjoy the most out of all the things that you do? Is it the writing? Is it the content producing? Is it directing? What is it? Out of all the things that you do, what do you love the most?
Um, I'm gonna give you 2. One, to see.
Not one. No, I'm just playing.
Okay, 1 or 2. Can I?
You do.
Alright. The first one is to really see the lives of people change. And then 2 is to showcase the possibilities, the true possibilities of life. Sometimes we get so stuck in just this is how it has to go, or this is the only way that it could go. But I get the opportunity to use my creativity to just expand in such a way that is just phenomenal.
And so, with all of the talents, all of the events, all of the past publications that you've done, where is that taking you next? We're talking 2021. What does the vision for 2021 look like?
Um, that's a you know what? You have had so many great questions today, and you're a rock star. 2021, I want to be able to really expand the agency, my creative marketing agency, in regards to doing documentaries. My long-term goal is to be a producer, and the day I get on that red carpet
Yes,
to
ma'am.
debut my movie, I need you to be there.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I want you to be there, so don't you forget. Because it's going to happen. It's
Oh, it's gonna happen.
going to happen. You're going to say, "Oh my gosh, you remember you said." And so I told you because I know it's part of my story.
The power of manifestation is real.
It
Uh,
is.
Before we close out, I must know, when I was listening to you earlier, one of the affirmations that you did repeatedly say is "I am, I am, I am." But what has been your affirmation for this year alone that has gotten you through and reminds you why you do the work that you do with Women of More?
The affirmation is lately, it has been that what I say is as powerful as I'm talking to you now. So I have to be mindful of what I say in the atmosphere because what I say, it will come to pass. So, in those things that I need to remind myself who I am, I don't think about it, I speak it. And me speaking it changes everything about me. It gives me a new vision. It gives me sight into my future. And of course, my affirmation every day is that I am a woman of more. And there is more to me than what I'm doing right now.
Michelle Washington, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for all of you for watching. For more news, updates, and information, you can always come back here and hang out with me on Up with India on at WITN22 Wilm. That's at WITN22 Wilm. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.